something that really has been bothering me about the NFL, and I want to share that with you, and that's what I've been calling paid patriotism. And I found this in a couple articles, and also today on One American News Network, they are actually, the NFL is reversing its stance on the national anthem. So we're going to talk about that real quick here. The first article I want to go to is "Stop Wrapping the Flag Around Pro Sports," and this is a Mises.org article that was written on September 26th by Ryan McMacken, and I'll put the links up in the description down below. But basically, if we go down into the article, we start talking about when the national anthem was actually coming into full force in the NFL, and that was during World War II in baseball games and other venues and stuff like that. And the article goes on to talk about, but even after the war, the habit of playing the anthem at every game was not firmly in place until the Vietnam War. It was during the Vietnam War, however, that the spread of the national anthem use finally met with some resistance. Historian Mark Ferris, in his book Star Spangled Banner, notes that similar protests took place in the NFL during the 1960s and the 1970s. Ferris recounts how responding to protests during the playing of the anthem at the 1968 Olympics, the league's commissioner, Pete Rozelle, required players to hold their helmets in their left hands and salute the flag during the anthem. But this was not without its detractors with the NFL, and Ferris notes anthem controversies during the 1970s helped institute an increased analysis of sports, which turned into the primary battleground over the beleaguered national anthem and its meaning. But by the Obama era, however, not even this grassroots spread of the anthem was sufficient for the federal government. By 2009, now folks, remember, we're right now, 2009 is in the heart of the biggest recession to ever hit the United States, right, since the Great Depression. In 2009, the Pentagon was actively using taxpayer money to pay the National Football League to expand patriotic displays. In 2009, Barack Obama's Department of Defense began paying hundreds of thousands of dollars towards teams in a marketing strategy designed to show support for the troops and increase recruitment. The NFL then required all players and personnel to be on the sidelines during the national anthem in exchange for taxpayer dollars. The national anthem was played in the stadium, but players had the option of staying in the locker room before heading out to the field. Furthermore, teams that showed veterans salutes during games were paid upwards of $5.1 million. In total, $6.8 million in taxpayer monies was doled out to sports teams, mostly NFL, for the so-called paid patriotism. I have another article here from FEE.org, Foundation for Economic Education. It's time to end the paid militarization of NFL. And this was by Stephen Beal, and it was posted up this year. Before 2009, Colin Kaepernick would have had to find some other way to protest racism against African Americans. That's because until the height of the Iraq War, NFL players weren't even required to leave the locker room for the national anthem, much less stand for it. That's not to say the national anthem didn't take place before every game. The singing of the Star Spangled Banner was mandated during another war, World War II, when the NFL commissioner at the time mandated it for the league. Between 2012 and 2015, the DoD shelled out $53 million to professional sports. The players were told to stand for it about the same time that the Department of Defense was ramping up a massive recruitment and media operations around the wars in Afghanistan. Now, folks, this, to me, is incredulous. I have never read anywhere in the Constitution, in the enumerated powers, where any department in the national federal government has the constitutional authority to pay, especially sports teams, to stand up during the national anthem, and more importantly, to recruit for the military. Is that a good expenditure for taxpayer dollars? I mean, folks, I like the NFL, I like other sports teams, I like NASCAR, but the vast majority of the American people do not watch sports. And yet their tax dollars are going to pay for patriotism in the NFL. There's bills right now, if you go over to Open Congress, there's bills right now being introduced, especially by the senator from New Jersey, Cory Booker, to defund the NFL. President Trump has tweeted out, we're going to defund the NFL from taxpayer dollars. And President Trump's actually threatening to try to get a bill pushed through to strip the NFL of their nonprofit status. Honestly, I don't know how the NFL can be a nonprofit. I really don't. I don't know how that works. I think that has to be investigated too. And it's amazing to me how, like I said, I'm not an avid sports fan. I like watching football. I like watching my NASCAR. I watch a little bit of baseball. I hardly ever watch basketball. But I never knew that our federal government was paying the NFL for, honestly, folks, for this fake patriotism. If you have to pay somebody to be patriotic, how patriotic is that? Now, all this is coming about, and all these protests and, thumbing their nose at President Trump, and I don't think President Trump should have got involved in it to the extent that he did. I think he was wrong in that. However, as part of doling out taxpayer dollars from the Department of Defense and allowing the league to actually have, through the IRS, the nonprofit status is, to me, beyond comprehension. I think they're abusing that, okay? But the NFL has wised up. They're a business, folks. Now, trust me when I tell you, the NFL is a business. They can do what they want. They always have. And they've taken money, I think wrongly, they've taken taxpayer dollars that they should never have gotten to promote this militarization and this patriotism at the NFL games. And there's this just popped up that the, let me move my picture here a little bit so you can see it. NFL revised national anthem policy. And this is something they're reporting. It hasn't quite done it yet, but the NFL is quietly changing its policy to require players to stand for the national anthem following nationwide backlash. The league reportedly added the new rule to its game manual, which will punish players who refuse to stand. The penalties include fines, suspensions, forfeiting of draft choices. It's unclear when the rules were updated. They said everything was quiet. There's other folks reporting on other news outlets saying that it hasn't happened yet, but this is something that's in the works. I trust One American News Network to do their homework and find out about this. And like I said, the NFL, the sports teams, they are business. I don't think they're non-profit. I think that should be stripped away from them. But beside the point, they make the rules, and if they want the players to stand, they want the players to stand. But I don't know if this move by the NFL to force the players to stand is a move to keep the taxpayer dollars coming in. I don't know if that's the case or not. We'll have to see. But if this is the reason why they're doing that, in order not to lose tax dollars, that's not a good enough reason for me. Tax dollars should never be spent on sports. I don't care if it's federal, state, or local. These multi-billionaires that run these teams and the NFL have more than enough money to put stadiums in these towns. And if they put these stadiums in the towns, they should foot the bill. And enough said. They should not spend tax dollars on that because, again, not everybody is a sports fan. And these stadiums, and I've talked about this on the show before, these stadiums do not bring the economic boom to these cities that they're put in that everybody claims that happens, and it doesn't. These are just my thoughts on paid patriotism on the Dan Clements Show. Have a great rest of the day, and God bless. Hey folks, if you liked this previous video here, please subscribe, hit the notification button, give me a thumbs up or thumbs down, and please leave a comment because your feedback is much appreciated. This is Dan Clements, your host of the Dan Clements Show, your constitutional warrior.